So today we're speaking with Captain Brian Menke from Rock Community Fire Protection District about finding and filling the holes in pre-planning data. So this department has been working together with FlowMSP since last August on a special project that has resulted in our newest feature, which is the administrative dashboard. And so Captain Menke today is going to give us a little bit of information about his department, the project they did with FlowMSP, the dashboard, and how they're now using this to achieve their goals at Rock Community. So could you start, Captain Menke, by telling us just a little bit about what your pre-planning team is working on right now? What are your goals for the next few months?
All righty. And first, maybe before I jump onto that, I did just want to say that I do not work for FlowMSP. We do not get any kickbacks from them or anything like that. We formed that relationship with them. I guess you said it was back in August a couple of years ago. And we have just been, I am the chair for our pre-plan committee and kind of run the pre-plan program for the district, and just have been really happy with the relationship we have with FlowMSP, not only the program that they have, but their responsiveness to any inquiries we have had, any suggestions we have had for making pre-planning better. They have been very receptive to. And this whole dashboard concept, they've asked me to work with them on that. And again, they've been really responsive as far as customer service and as far as just making the tweaks to the program that I thought might be helpful to everybody that's using it. So I just wanted to get that out there. This isn't any kind of paid advertisement or anything like that. This is just a satisfied customer to this point who is I've been willing to jump on board with this and try to answer any questions you guys have and talk about our experience at Rock Community with Flow. So, but yeah, so Rock Community, we've been doing pre-plans for a long time. And I'll just start there real quick, if I can, just kind of the history of our pre-planning journey. So we initially, many, many moons ago, started pre-plans, and they really started off with hand drawings of some buildings and target hazards in our area. That kind of evolved into using CAD programs to do computer-aided drawings of floor plans, buildings, exteriors, and so forth. Overheads, I guess. And those were great. I mean, we still have some of those that we've put into the Flow program pre-plans that we do. But as you can imagine, doing CAD drawings of 2,500 commercial occupancies in a district, it wasn't getting them all done for sure. And so then we went with another company that had a similar program to Flow, but not quite as advanced and user-friendly, but it had similar kind of concept, using photos and putting symbols on the photos and stuff like that. And we used that program for a while, and but then we were introduced to Flow because there were some things we weren't really satisfied with the other company, and so we got on board with Flow, and things have been just progressing crazy as far as what they're doing at Flow. We've met with them a few times in person, and just they really have a desire to make this program work for everybody using it. So currently we're using Flow. We have been for, I guess it's a couple of years now, right, Joy? Is that right? Or a year and a half, or something like that. And we've been able to take has been nice is we've been able to take, because if you want to make some firemen angry, what you do is you take work that they've done throughout the years and trash it and say we're starting over again. So fortunately, we haven't had to do that. We've been able to take the legwork that they've been doing through the years and bring all that into the FlowMSP program. And so, I mean, and I'm sure you can all relate to that. If you got firemen out there doing pre-plans for years, and then you say, hey, we're changing programs, we're starting from scratch, you lose them really quick. So one nice thing about Flow is we've been able to take the stuff that's already been done, the CAD drawings, the previous program stuff that we did in a PDF format, and put that into our Flow pre-plans. So that was a lifesaver for us, being able to do that. Currently, we are taking a lot of those old pre-plans that we've done and putting them into the Flow program, and then tweaking them a little bit, making them better. So that's a lot of what we're doing right now, is making that change and getting them into the format that we're using with Flow. We've identified a number of buildings. As a committee, we went through and identified what we considered target hazards in our district. And those, the loose definition we use are buildings that, due to their size or complexity or occupancy, pose a significant risk to the public or the firefighters responding. So we've identified those target hazards, and we are going through, that's what we're working on right now, is assigning those out to the engine companies to take the information that we already have and getting that into the Flow program in a user-friendly way there, and then updating those as needed. So we're working through our target hazards right now, and then once we have those completed, we'll branch out into getting the rest of the commercial occupancies completed in that format as well. So hopefully that answers your question on that. And I'll be able to share my screen here and kind of show you what we're doing too with that.
So Captain Menke, I think every firefighter understands the value of a pre-incident plan, but why has Rock Community made it such a high priority to get all of your pre-incident plans complete and up to date right now?
Well, there's a few reasons. And, as I share with the engine companies, there's things like ISO ratings that, they're looking for pre-plans to be done on all the commercial structures in the building. We are currently working towards accreditation, which again, pre-plans are a big part of that. Having all your occupancies pre-planned is a big part of it. And that's all good stuff. But what's really important and most important, and what drives the engine companies to get out and do it, is reminding them that first and foremost, it's about the information that the guys on the truck have available to them quickly while they're responding to some of these structures. As a captain, there's certain buildings that when those tones go off and they say an alarm sounding or a working fire in such and such building, that like the hair on the back of my neck stands up a little bit, and it's like, ooh, that's a big scary building. And so having up-to-date pre-plans on those is for me, it's very nice to be able to, while I'm on the way to that call, to easily be able to pull up that pre-plan and say, okay, here's what the building looks like. This is what they have inside there. This is where different important things are located on that building, on the outside or on the inside of the building. It makes it a little less scary on the way there, especially if you're going to be that first or second end unit.
So around this time last year, you were doing some pre-incident planning. So what did it look like specifically at that time before you started on this new project with Flow?
Well, so you're talking about while we were using Flow, but before the dashboard project kind of rolled out? Yeah, so the functionality and the usability of the program was very good as far as completing the pre-plans and getting those done. The challenge, and I think that anybody that oversees pre-planned programs for their fire district or fire department deals with, is the recognizing which pre-plans are complete to a standard, whatever that standard is for your district, which ones need to be worked on, And then just how do you go about prioritizing and then assigning those out? And then follow up and QA on those as well. It was always a challenge. Like I said, I think we've got around 2,500 commercial occupancies when you count our multi-residential and stuff like that. To me, that was overwhelming to look at and try to organize as far as the pre-plan. But I know there's other districts out there that have many more than that. And so before it was very overwhelming from my chair as far as getting those organized, prioritized, and assigned out, and then following up on what was being done on those.
So as the pre-planned program administrator, what kind of tools were you using at that time, and where were they falling short?
Oh, boy. So I was using primarily, we would get PDF documents, printouts, spreadsheets, things like that from our fire marshal's office as to what commercial occupancies were out there. And then trying to sort through those and figure out what was what. There was a lot of redundancy in those, especially on our multi-residential or our multi-occupancy buildings like strip malls and things like that. Looking at those on a spreadsheet and trying to figure out what was a nightmare. And then trying to, either take a highlighter and highlight things and prioritize them, or what I was doing a lot was doing that same process, but on the computer. So going through and highlighting what we thought were target hazards and trying to assign those out. And I had like 6 or 7 different colors that meant different things to me, but it was very cumbersome. That's the word that keeps coming to mind, is cumbersome. I'm trying to juggle a lot of different things and make sense of it. And what might make sense to me one day while I was putting it all together, a couple weeks down the road, if I pulled that up, I had to relearn what I had just, put together and tried to remember what everything meant. So it was difficult.
So in terms of reaching your goals as a pre-planned program administrator, was it possible to do with the tools you had at that time?
Well, nothing's impossible for a firefighter. We'll figure it out and get it done. But it was next to impossible. Yes. Yeah. Right.
So I believe at around that time, you had kind of started talking with FlowMSP and saying, like, look, there's got to be a better way to do this. So what kind of information did FlowMSP provide to you to make you kind of realize that you wanted to do things differently, that you could do things differently? Like, what was kind of the start of that project, I guess, for you?
Had a lot of conversations with the guys there at Flow. And, they would just throw out this, what if we had a way for you to track, what your target hazards are and identify those? What if there was a way for us to identify, which pre-plans had been assigned out to a particular engine company? What if there was a way for you to easily look at the pre-plans that were assigned out and see which ones are being worked on, which ones have not been worked on? What if there was a way for you to look at it quickly and just have, for a baseline completion, what percentage of that completion is done? A lot of these ideas that they had, and of course, every time they'd say it, something like that, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds great. Show me how you want to do that, and they went through some different trial and errors with different things. And, there was a time where they were sending me weekly updates on what was being done and things like that as they worked towards getting this dashboard put together. But the dashboard that they have right now is really great. It's very user friendly for me. And I've had conversations with them since they rolled it out about, different things here and there, and they've made some tweaks to it. And, where we're at now is far and away better than where we were.
So you had mentioned that there were kind of some specific obstacles that you were trying to overcome as you were going through this project with Flow, as you were creating this, helping to create this dashboard tool. So can you just kind of list what were some of those specific obstacles, and then what kind of tools did Flow provide to solve those problems?
Yeah, so do you want me to go ahead and share my screen and I can kind of show you that now? Or yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, you should be able to see that I was trying to figure out where Mount Hope Funk's Grove Fire Protection District was, and I found that. So let me go to my Flow, which I think is underneath this bar right here.
Yeah, you should just be able to drag that little
there
bar
it is
to get it out of your way.
Oh, okay. All right, so there we are. All right, so can you all see my screen there? Can you see that?
Yes.
Joy? Okay, all right. Yeah, so of course, some of you have played with this already, but I'm just going to go ahead and open up the dashboard and kind of show you some of the things that they did there. So I'll start over here. So one of the things that was always challenging when you're looking at a spreadsheet and trying to make assignments to engine companies at 5 different engine houses on 3 different crews was, they weren't listed as far as what district they were in, or what still area, we call them still areas, but response areas that they were in. And so one of the things, and this was kind of a little bit later after they revealed the program, rolled it out, but Flow was able to take the information I gave them, and for most of our places, we have the response areas in there. So that was a big help for me as far as assigning these out, because now I can just go to a particular still area, and I can, for instance, I can just type in, if I can spell house, let me say house 3, and it's going to pull up all of house 3's or commercial occupancies. Down here, I can click on, it's showing 10 now, I can show 50, and the house 3 has our least amount of commercial occupancies. They're kind of in a residential area back there, but that brings all those up for me. So that was one obstacle. Another one, this was one of the big ones here that they helped with, was this completion rate. So we had an issue where, when you've got 15 different engine companies working on pre-plans, you've got 15 different people deciding what they would think is a complete pre-plan. Not right, wrong, or indifferent, just different perspectives on things. So we came up with this idea of what a basic complete pre-plan would look like, and we put in some parameters for that. And it now will give you a percentage. But the beautiful thing about this, really for me, is when I assign this out to somebody, they can see this 30% completion. And rather than saying, well, what does that mean? They can click on this box here, and it's going to tell them exactly what they need to get 100% completion on that. So they need 5 images with annotations on that. And for some of that, it's just, the overhead with, where the sprinkler connection is, where the electric box is, so forth. And then 4 photos, a photo of each side of the building with an Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta on there. Those are annotations when you put those side designations on there. So that's going to get them up to 50% there. So on this particular pre-plan, they need to get those 5 images in there. And then it says add missing building data to go from 5 to 25%, and it actually lists the building data that they're missing on that pre-plan. So obviously this pre-plan at Rock Creek Granite hasn't had much done on it at all. So that's really nice, because I used to tell the captain, say, if it says it's not 100% complete, click on that, and that's going to tell you what you need to do to get a completion on that.
Hey, Captain Menke,
Yeah.
why in the pre-plan score is such a heavy emphasis placed on photos? Because not every pre-planning program has the ability to add photos. So why is that so important for you?
Well, what do they say? A photo's worth 1,000 words or something like that. I don't know, something along those lines. But yeah, I mean, sitting on the seat in the truck going to a call, getting that visual of the building for me is really important. And I can actually see, like on the alpha side on that photo, you can even put the symbol on there where the Knox box is and where the sprinkler connection is on that alpha side, and that just gives you an immediate visual as to what you're looking at the building you're responding to. So photos, I mean, we never had them before because the technology wasn't there. We had either hand drawings or CAD drawings. And unless you were really familiar with that building, you didn't realize, what that was really until you got there and tried to put it together with the drawing. So photos are a great way to do pre-plans, I think. You want me to go on with a couple of these other things?
Yes.
Situations that we overcame? Okay. Yeah, so that completion button there is great. Then one thing I asked them to add was the floor plan. Now, the floor plan does not take away from your 100% over here. And the reason we did it that way was because not all commercial buildings are going to have a pre-plan. In all honesty, not every one of them, in my opinion, needs a floor plan. You're going into Burger King, for instance. I don't necessarily need a floor plan. I'm pretty familiar with how a Burger King's laid out. You got a dining room, you've got a kitchen, you got a storage area. Not a big thing. So I didn't want that taken away from the 100%. But I did want to know that does the Anheuser-Busch can plant down there, a huge building. I would like to know that there's a floor plan in the pre-plan for that. It's a big, giant building, right? So that's simply a yes or a no there. So they added that in there. Then they got the high hazard. We added that in there because some buildings are what we call target hazards, and we wanted to give priority to those. So they added that column. Now, on any of these columns here, if you haven't used this before, you can click on any one of these. And if you give it a couple of clicks to get where you want, now all of my target hazards in House 3, since I searched House 3, are at the top. So as I told you before, we're working on getting all those target hazards completed. So you can see that these have all been assigned to somebody. Not all the target hazards, but we're going through month by month and assigning those out. That's what this column is here. So you're able to identify your target hazards and get those on here. Like I said, any of these you can click on and it'll bring those to the top. So same thing with do status. The status over here just tells us whether it is open. That means I have assigned it to somebody. It's complete, or it's in progress. Once they open it up after I assign it to them, it'll show it in progress. So yeah, they've helped us to overcome a lot of different things with this, because now I can quickly look at, I want to do assignments for, House 2. And I want to focus on the target hazards. So I click on that target hazard button there. And it brings all of House 2's target hazards up. And I see these have all been assigned. But here's a target hazard that hasn't been assigned yet. All right, so that helps me with assigning those out. Yeah, does that kind of answer that question for you? I mean, there's a bunch of other stuff on here as well, but one other thing I will point out that has helped us. So you can click on columns here, and you can click on any of these boxes that you want to see on this screen. So if you want to see standpipes, now you got a standpipe. Imperial Automotive does not have a standpipe, right? So you can click on any one of those. But what I click on is notes here, because what we have started doing is when somebody completes a pre-plan, I'll go in there and QA it. So it says 100%. I want to look at it and see, because that 100% tells me that for one, there's annotations on 5 different photos. But when I'm QAing it, I want to look at it and see what does that photo have on it, right? So because they could have anything on there. So I look at the photos and I'm seeing what they have on any given photo. There's one of our CAD drawings. And then I go through and check that. And then I check the building information, make sure they've got everything that I need in there. And then I'll just put QA April of 22. So, so that is a nice feature there, is that I can, when I'm looking through this, I can just click on columns, click on notes, and then I can see ones that have been QA'd. And so that's what we're doing for QA right now. And there may be some changes coming up with that, with the Flow dashboard. I've been talking with Don about, what the best way to do that is, because one of the problems that we are addressing is, according to, different organizations, the pre-plan should be updated every year. So how do you know whether a building has been updated in a given year? And so that's what I'm using that QA for right now in the notes. I know that this was updated and QA'd in 2022. But we're looking at that with Flow as far as, is that the best way to go, or should we have a column that identifies that? Because what we have here is last reviewed, but really last reviewed, anytime somebody opens up that pre-plan and looks at it and does anything with it, it's going to put down that they were the last person to review that. Doesn't necessarily mean that's when it was last completed or QA'd. So so that's something we're working on with Flow right now.
So as a pre-plan program administrator, what have you kind of learned along the way as you participated in this project?
That there's a better way to do things. And, as far as working with Flow, it has been a great relationship there, just working and trying to make it better and make it work more smoothly. Because just historically, I think everybody probably relates to this. If you have a number of commercial occupancies, it is very difficult to coordinate and to, get things assigned out and followed up on and so forth. Just learning that, there is a better way to do it, and it can be made, to where it is a very user-friendly system.
So you kind of started on this project back in August last year. What kind of progress have you been making on your department's goals in the time between then and now? What have you been able to accomplish so far?
Well, like I said, we've been able to identify target hazards and have those visible to all the guys and gals. And we've been able to start making sense of how we're assigning them. I know one of the things that frustrated people was in the assigning process that some pre-plans were being assigned out. They weren't really target hazards. They weren't really major concerns to them as far as firefighters. They were commercial occupancies, but they weren't really target hazards. So there was some frustration along the way, as far as, I just responded to this big warehouse and there was no good pre-plan for it, but we've got a great pre-plan on the snow cone shack down the street. And we've just been able to identify and prioritize, and, the guys and gals on the truck want to feel like what they're doing is, worth their while and beneficial to them in their role as firefighters. And So that's been a big part of it, I think. And they know that we, in order for accreditation and ISO and NFPA and all those things, that we do need to have pre-plans on all of our commercial occupancies. But I think they're glad to see that because of the ease of use with this dashboard, that we can prioritize things and get those ones that completed that are important to them done first. The dashboard's also just made it really easy, not just from my standpoint, but for them as well. So I can issue those assignments and they can very easily go there and click on the dashboard, and they can just click on assign to, go to the drop-down menu, find their name, and it will pull up the pre-plans that are assigned to them. They can very easily see what needs to be done on those, when they're due, whether they've been QA'd or not once they've completed them. So it's not only made it much easier for me and our committee, but it's also made it much easier for the guys and gals out there doing the pre-plans as well.
And how, as an administrator, how can you tell if they did the work you assigned or not?
Yeah, so let me go back to my screen here. All right. So let me pull up. So let me do this here. Okay. So first, for those of you that don't know, if somebody wants to find out what pre-plans are assigned to them, or from an administrator standpoint, if I want to check on Chris Granda, I'll pick on him and see what's been assigned to him. I can see that as, let's see, Unico and Arnold Defense Warehouse were both completed by him. They were assigned in March, and that I have QA'd those. Okay. So when I see that he has completed it, and I scroll through here and I see it says 100%, that's when I go back in and QA it. And I can see, first of all, I can see 100%. That means he worked on it and he got the minimum standard done for us. Then when I open it up and look at it, I can see, what kind of symbols is he putting on the pictures, and I can forward, email to him and say, hey, could you please make sure you are putting the Knox box location on the overhead picture, and just follow up with them like that. I can see that I assigned these two to him, and they're due at the end of April, and these are open. That means I've assigned them. He probably hasn't opened them up yet. I don't think he's come on duty since I've assigned those, but I can see that he's got these two, and they're at 45%. He hasn't worked on those as of yet. So, or I could just click on assign to, and this brings up the ones that are assigned to everybody, and I can scroll through. And that's kind of what I do sometimes, to scroll through and find ones that if it says 100% and I look over and it doesn't show that it was QA'd, then I know that that's something they just completed and I need to take a look at it and QA it. So does that answer your question okay?
Yes. Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button.
That's all right. I was afraid maybe I lost you and I'd have to say all that again.
No, it was just me that was lost. So, but we're kind of starting to run down on our time here for our session, and I do want to give people a chance to ask questions. But before we do that, did you just have any advice you wanted to provide to other pre-planned program administrators based on what you've learned so far?
Well, I would just say, try not to get frustrated and overwhelmed by the process. And my first advice would be to, if you have either you have a list of all your commercial occupancies from somewhere, or you can do like we did. We went through all of the buildings that had been traced, and we kind of divvied that up amongst our committee and just said, start going through and identifying the high hazard ones. And so we did that. I would say for us, that's been something big, is just identifying the target hazards and having a prioritization as to the ones we want to get done first, and then kind of work out from there. But yeah, I would say just learn how to use this this dashboard. And I'm still learning things all the time, but it makes it so much easier if you use that.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. And at this time, I would like to open it up for questions. So if you would like to ask a question, if you could just drop a note in the chat and we will unmute you so that you can ask Captain Menke. Don't be shy.
I must have answered everybody's questions.
We're that thorough, man. Covered it all.
There we go.
How many assignments per shift per house did you make?
Okay, so that is something we are phasing in. So, like I said, we've been doing this for a number of years, but just working with Flow for the last year and a half or so. And so right now, we've been doing 2 per engine house per shift. And what we're doing now is pretty easy. So that 2 can be done fairly quickly. But as I told the guys in an email yesterday, please make sure you get your April ones completed, because in the coming months, we're going to start phasing in and probably working up to, 4 a month or something like that. Because if we're wanting to get in every building every year, doing 2 a month isn't going to get that done. The nice thing, though, is that once these pre-plans are up and they're at the 100% level for all of the pre-plans, updating them year to year is going to be a cinch. The biggest challenges are going to be new buildings or different, a different occupancy in the same building that, is totally different than what was there before. So, but, updating these is going to be a matter of going out, making sure, things are pretty much the same, adding anything they think might be of interest, and, making sure we still have the right emergency contacts and that. So, I would foresee once we have 100% on all of our occupancies, that we will be doing updates. We'll probably be doing, 6 or 8 a month, something like that. So, yeah.
Another question. Do you have any internal set of definitions as to what the symbols and terms mean for standardization among the crews?
Internal set of definitions as to what the symbols, terms mean for standardization among the crews. Yeah, so so the symbols that we are currently using on Flow here, they've been a little bit different than what we were using previously on some of them. Most of them are fairly self-explanatory. But yeah, right now we're just using those symbols, and I think we have a good understanding across the board as to what those symbols mean. There will likely be some tweaking of some of the symbols used, just from my perspective, and talking with the guys there at Flow. I know at one point we still have quite a few hazmat things on there, and there's been some symbols that I've asked them to add along the way, and they've added those in there. But they were talking about maybe getting away from having so many different hazmat ones and having a few different choices for just generic symbols that we use every day on buildings. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, Ed. Or that was Dennis, wasn't it? Yeah, Dennis. We can unmute you if you have anything for clarification. Okay, so thanks. You're muted, Joy.
Can't you lip read? Thank you. So did your committee train the crews on how to complete the pre-plans, and how long did that take? They're in that phase right now at Pasco.
Yeah, yeah. So, what we did, we actually, Flow actually provided one training for us for one of the shifts, and that was like just the initial onboarding training that we did, and then I trained the other two shifts, and since then we've had some, tag on at the end of another training or something like that, and just kind of walk them through it again or answer any questions that they have. Training them didn't take long, really, but as you probably have encountered, if people aren't doing it on a regular basis, they tend to forget things maybe sometimes, or they didn't understand it the first time through. And so it's kind of a continuing thing where we're having to answer questions, and we've got representatives on each shift that oversee pre-plans on our committee. And so they've got those guys that they can go to get questions answered. Also, I share some of the access to the videos that Flow has put out, and then I make some videos myself or send out emails. Like yesterday, I just sent out an email reminding the guys that if you're out on site and you're taking pictures with your phone or your iPad, when you get done taking all your pictures, there's a checkbox at the top of that top right of the screen that you have to click that so it'll upload those pictures. Otherwise, you'll get back to the station and they didn't get uploaded and you'll be very frustrated. So it's an ongoing thing. And I do that through either in-person follow-ups or videos that I put out or emails and things like that.
And Flow actually did just release a new strategy and training portal. So now every department can have their own training portal. And whenever you have new personnel or somebody who just needs a refresher on how to use Flow, they can log into that training portal and review the videos and the content there as well.
That sounds great. I did not even know about that.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been so impressed with. And I'm telling you, I'm not getting any money from Flow. But I've been just really impressed with the way they continue to update things and make them better. It's not like they put out a product and they said, here you go, send us your money and use the product and have fun. They're continually improving things and calling and getting ideas all the time and, asking opinions about things. And so, yeah, I've been really happy with that.
Well, last call for questions. We are about at the end of our time, so ask now or forever hold your peace. Looks like nobody's jumping up. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming, and thank you so much to Captain Menke for this webinar. This has been great information, and hopefully it'll help a whole lot of other departments as well.